Escape to the metaverse. Better act like you know. Yeah. You are now tuned into the Matthew Rizzle show. Yeah. Escape to the metaverse. Better act like you know. Yeah. You are now tuned into the Matthew Rizzle show. Yeah. Escape to the metaverse. Better act like you know. You are now tuned into the Matthew Rizzle show. Yeah. Escape to the metaverse. Better act like you know. You are now tuned into the Matthew Rizzle show. Yeah.
Dude, day before Thanksgiving, vibes are kind of immaculate, all things considered. I mean, I didn't really I'm not CZ, so like no real impact there. The markets seem to be kind of back to where they were pre-announcement, like over 2K for ETH. Bitcoin seems to be healthy. Interesting times, man.
It is, dude. I feel like that's the general sentiment across the board, and a lot of people that I've been in conversation with recently. And it's sort of still in like, you know, the markets have sort of turned up a little bit, but like we're still in that same phase where like, you know, people are just sort of running out of runway. You know, the markets haven't gone crazy to the point where like, you know, stuff is getting funded and people can like, you know, start hiring again. And so it's sort of a weird mix of like, I don't know. I feel like a lot of positivity across the board, despite that stuff happening like concurrently. I don't know. I don't feel like it's different than like previous. I don't know. I don't know if you could call this a cycle. Whatever it is.
Yeah, I mean, the bosses have changed, as we discussed before. America seems to be like the big bad actor versus like circa 2018, when it was like every other fortnight or more frequently, China was the bad news bear that was sending like the market into like volatile like downturns and like just craziness. So that's different. I think the stakes are you can probably definitely say they're much different at this point. But yeah, I mean, they're actually like whatever that Privy crypto project that got funding from Paradigm, the new Ponzi sponsored by Paradigm, whatever, and the Blur folks, like that shit's going on, which is just, it is what it is, I guess. But yeah, the other side of things, everyone seems to be doing their thing. No like huge winners at this point, just steady building, collecting, creating, that sort of thing. Basel's around the corner. That'll be interesting to see how it plays out this year. I know there's a lot of like activations planned, and yeah, I think that'll be an interesting litmus test going into the end of the year. But yeah. Well, did you watch the press conference with Department of Justice, Treasury, CFTC?
I did not, but feel free to give me the TLDR.
It was like the equivalent of, I guess, the cops like presenting a layout on the table, like a couple kilos of cocaine, a bunch of guns, money, basically in their charges against Binance and CZ. It was weird, but they're making it clear that like they're going to lay down the law, like there's laws on the books, and they're going to be assholes about all of those. The enforcer from the CFTC was talking about how the laws need to be updated to accommodate shit, which I thought was like a glimmer of reasonableness. Can't read too much into that. I know I've read some takes where folks are saying that CFTC in control of things versus like SEC, for example, would be a much worse future for us. I'm not smart enough to exactly know why, but have seen rumblings on that front. But it was kind of reasonable, the very short snippet of a remark that he shared. But Grandma Yellen was mispronouncing names and saying like Binance instead of Binance, which was odd. Yeah. But it was just like trying to saber rattle when everyone knows that she's just going to go home, like put a hot pocket in the microwave and fall asleep at like 7 p.m. or something like that. Kind of depressing to see like that's where the state of things are, and everyone using like national security as the blanket reason to just kind of like shut shit down and try to act like a dick, which is like no one wants to say, yeah, let's make our country less safe, but to constantly say like our financial system needs to be ridiculous in so many regards and rely on like antiquated, obviously like a corrupt model, especially considering the fact that like, all right, yeah, Binance had the largest fine in history, 4 billion, whatever, but Wells Fargo, with all those fraudulent accounts, had like $3.1 billion in fines back in the day. I think it was HSBC that was literally fucking funding like Mexican cartels or like helping them launder their money. Like multi-billion-dollar fine. No jail time for any of those senior executives. And then just to kind of like cite like Binance, biggest in the world, done a ton for the space. No whisper of misappropriating customer funds or anything like that. Like, to quote CZ, the funds are SAFU. Like, which is a huge deal following the FTX and et cetera, like shit show, right? So like, and then the fact that he may be facing jail time or at least like house arrest, whatever, in light of like the traditional financial institutions that quote unquote are protecting national interests, when if you look at the list of crimes that they've committed, is arguably worse than looking the other way, not having like processes and systems in place to secure against ensuring that money never ever flows to bad actors, even though apparently those checks and balances don't kind of work in practice if you look at the traditional financial institutions. So mixed bag, definitely worth a watch. I think we can link to it in the notes, but an interesting glimmer from the CFTC, like I was saying to up the odds, but need to see what happens there. A lot of work to be done.
No, man, I think back like what you were talking about like a couple weeks ago, and this just seems like so much that in terms of like, you know, we're reaching some boss level type of battles, you know, thing. And, you know, here they are like, you know, taking down CZ and everything. And I feel like, you know, there's so many examples of like fraudulent stuff going on in the space, right? Like if you're deep in it, man, we like see this stuff like day in and day out. And it's like, you know, sometimes you ask yourself, you're just like, how is nobody like, you know, if they're trying to like clean up a little bit, like there's some like, you know, there's some low hanging fruit out there, you know, that's not this, but you know, I feel like, you know, the U.S. in general is still seemingly functioning under this assumption that they can contain like crypto and like the decentralized aspect of this in like some way or whatever, which, you know, to me, I feel like is a losing battle. And, you know, if crypto sort of is this global thing, you know, that people have access to that can continue to be like spun up in like different variations and everything. I'm like, you know, it's you know, when CZ, you know, goes away, another CZ will pop up in CZ's place. And if you whack that mole, like eventually it'll just start being Anon ones that get spun up. And, you know, this is all just sort of like, you know, I feel just, you know, really misdirected and like I said, under this assumption that you can contain this and, you know, the fact that it's been sort of out in the open for everyone to see, you know, not that, you know, people who are committing crimes don't deserve to be like, you know, gone after, but it just feels like there's just so much like focus on trying to contain this technology within like what the US wants it to be. And it's like, you know, in my opinion, I'm like the cat's out of the bag and this technology is just going to continue to grow independently of whoever tries to contain it. So, you know, it's either you're on board or you sort of get left behind type of thing. And this is another like boss battle, like on that, like, you know, thing, you know, radar and everything. So, I don't know, man. It's interesting times for sure. And to what you were saying before, man, about like the latest Ponzi style thing. I forget, burst or blast or something like that. I feel like those types of things and that type of like behavior is returning. You know, we saw it with like some of the social finance apps that seem to be like, you know, nose diving hard at this point, but that was fleeting. And then, you know, there's this, and there were like a couple things in between. And I feel like we're starting to see that like speculative crowd again that's just like rushing from thing to thing to thing to thing to thing, which wasn't I don't know, it felt like that wasn't really happening for a while, or it was, and there weren't like a lot of opportunities to like, you know, make some quick Ponzi money if you knew like where to go. And I don't know, it's that's back more, I feel like, than it has been.
Never left, to be honest. But yeah, I mean, like the new bright light that they're all running towards. Yeah, that's definitely a newish thing over the past like week or so. It had been like a couple of seconds since Friend Tech lost its mantle as like flavor of the week. That's been like dying a quick, slow, burning death over the past like month or so. So yeah, they've been waiting for the next thing to get hype about and shitpost about.
Just that spawned a bunch of like clones, and so that crowd has been like, you know, running from Friend Tech clone to Friend Tech clone to Friend Tech clone, and you know, so just sort of, you know, chasing a lot of these things. And so but I don't know, man, I feel like a lot of the, you know, there's the thing with the people strapping the hard wallets to their heads, like like a lot of the weirdness that I feel like is indicative of like, you know, cycles coming and people starting to throw a little bit of money around and getting excited about like odd things. I don't know, man. It's so, dude, I had some like really cool conversations this past week, and I won't like put people's names out there who I've been talking to, but people I like really know and appreciate and respect within the industry. And I feel like a lot of me feeling positive is me talking to people like you and them, and sort of getting that general vibe from the community and everything. But, you know, I think about like, you know, what we were talking about last week in terms of like, you know, the old community sort of being like a little bit more like united and organized than we were in the past. And, you know, upcoming cycle and some of these like boss battles and everything. And I really do feel like, you know, this is sort of our chance to, you know, make sure we're in like the relevant conversation. And I feel like a lot of signs are pointing towards that happening, you know, as we go into the next thing. And, you know, I posted something, I've been getting like a lot of like, not great bids, but like bids on like old art and like NFTs that I accumulated from like a long time ago, for like, you know, 0.06 to like, you know, 0.2 or something like that. And I'm like, you know, part of me is like, oh shit, I've never gotten a bid on this before, but it's also like near and dear to my heart. Like, you know, a lot of this stuff that, you know, I have memories of collecting it with like, you know, people like yourself when there wasn't even a lot of art to collect in the first place. And so, but so I'm like, man, there's like a combination of things that I really like, man. You know, there's a lot of people turning out for the whip. A lot of people have been around for like a long time who like, you know, appreciate what we're doing and are, you know, consistently showing up. And you know, I feel like there's I don't know, like just sort of like a new breath of life being like breathed into that community that has stuck around for a long time. And I feel like this cycle is when everything becomes like more inescapable and relevant, right? Like we had that, like, you know, I feel like peak was like NFT NYC and like Times Square, and NFTs are like fucking everywhere. And then like, you know, they were sort of inescapable in the culture, in broader culture for like a little while, and then sort of like fizzled out. But I feel like this is the one where like everybody sort of realizes that these things are here to stay, and it's not like, you know, like fidget spinners or something that just goes away and, you know, they're irrelevant after a while. No offense to fidget spinner fans or whatever, but I think we get pushed into relevancy, man. And I like the sort of vibes going around the community that's stuck around here for a long time. And I hope those bids are a signal that like some of these people really start, you know, getting the spotlight.
Yeah, no, the bids have been steadily increasing. They're not insane, but they're not nothing. They're far from nothing. They're actually quite meaningful in a lot of instances. You're seeing, like, again, Mighty Moose last week was just like the example that comes to mind. But every day, like if you look at what Roger Dickerman is sharing in his feed, you see the activity. A lot of the same old names, I guess, would be the critique of some of the works that are fetching much higher prices. But if you look closely, you're seeing, again, I don't know the exact names that you're talking about, but a lot of more like unheralded, up and coming, just artists that have been steady doing their thing for a while. A lot of their older mints are starting to get more attention, as folks do, as they are apt to in the space, their archeological digs from time to time, going through some of the older marketplaces, see what gems may be listed, maybe kind of like missed by the shiny new things that continue to come to the market. So there's always those opportunities, and there's no better place to be a collector and kind of experience the thrill of looking for work to collect, putting out offers, or just scooping outright if there's a buy now price. Like it's so fun. And I just think that more people have caught that bug and realized that, or already had it, and realized that the space is the place to be a collector, especially on the fine digital art side of things. And even like non-fine digital art, like cool, weird projects with some history to them, some significance that people just want to be a part of. So that's pretty cool to see. There's one. Oh yeah, keep going.
I was gonna say I'll put it a couple of them out there. Like three come to mind, and you probably remember some of these people. So I'll shield my bags a little bit, but it's like sort of interesting as well. I've gotten a few. All these are like low ish bids along the lines of what I suggested before. But it's interesting because I've never gotten bids on these before, and there were some of like the very early crypto art pieces that I started accumulating. There's a few by like Alex Shell. I don't know if that name rings a bell. Yep. They were like involved in Scent, I believe, in like, posting on there, and their stuff was like talked up on Known Origin. And then you remember Love Art Hate?
Oh Jesus, yeah,
man, I got a nice it's an awesome piece of his on Known Origin. It's like I got a 0.2 bid on it, but he was like putting out some like really wild like glitch art NFTs like very, very early on, and I have like a lot of their stuff, and I think unfortunately, if I remember correctly, their like wallet was hacked at some point, and they don't have like possession of that creator wallet anymore, so that kind of sucks. And they sort of, I haven't heard anything from them. It's possible that they're active, but I was like a big fan of theirs early on. So it's kind of like cool to see like stuff that I appreciated like early on. And then like the weirdest one, not the weirdest one, but this is like, it has sort of a story behind it, man. Before I knew who Wizard X was, I thought Wizard X's like logo was really cool, and Wizard X was like always doing like weird stuff. And I got this NFT. It was like right when OpenSea started allowing other tokens to be used for purchasing. And this one was up, he had put it up there for like 2 Ampleforth or something like that, which was like worth like, next to nothing or whatever at the time. And so I was like, what the hell is this? And it was like such a pain in the ass to like, you'd figure out how to get Ampleforth to like buy this thing for like 2 Ampleforth or whatever. And I'm like, why is Wizard X doing this? But like, it's sort of interesting. So I'm going to get it. And it's like a cool like rendition of his, logo and everything. So anyway, I got like a 0.06 ETH bid on that, which I couldn't part with it for that amount, but that's like such an obscure like cool NFT, and some of the and I've gotten a few other ones that are slipping my mind at the moment. But I'm like, dude, someone's doing some like digging or something, man. It's like interesting that people would even stumble upon these in the first place, because there's just so much content out there at this point, right? Like we sort of went through that like NFT archeological like dig phase where people were dredging up like all these like ancient projects and everything, and I feel like man, if the dig goes in this direction, that's fun, man, because there's so much history in that like whole early crypto art scene, and we were all there for it like firsthand. So I don't know, man, it's cool. Even though I'm not selling these for like 3-4 ETH, I'm like, oh shit, man, someone stumbled upon this thing I stumbled upon like years ago, and nobody has literally since then.
Yeah, it's if again zooming out, it's crazy to think about like what the equivalent of this is, right? So like pre NFTs, these images, if we would have saved them and like encountered them years ago as we normally did, they would just be a bookmark in our browser, right? No one would know that we ever bookmarked it. We would never know if anyone else ever came across these images, sites, whatever. Now it's like we're reminded of collections of images of pages that we saw years and years ago, just because like we have that ownership wrapper and other people see and can search for those things and they can see prices and throw out bids. It's crazy to think about. Like the internet has previously been so hidden with a few exceptions. And now like you don't need to be the biggest name out there to be rediscovered or purchased or collected or found and seen, and know that you've been seen because you can see these global offers and the activity on the work that you create. It's such a title shift from what previously existed. And the fact that there's real deal money here, again, I think people really need to pinch themselves and remind themselves, like, what is going on here? The fact that people can be playing these very, very niche infinite video games and make money from them and like make a living from in some cases in a way that feels just as fun as jumping on playing like Call of Duty or Battlefield or whatever with the boys or girls or whomever you like to play video games with. It's so different. And it's, again, still scratching at that surface of what's possible with internet friends that come together for that shared purpose. It's fucking awesome.
Yo, so I have this like theory that I've been rolling around in my head, and I'm not sure if I believe it myself, but I am interested to hear your take as like, you know, an art aficionado or whatever you consider yourself, a respected, like, you know, person who appreciates art. So, you know, I'm like, dude, AI is getting fucking crazy, man. It's like so good, right? I like tinker with it on the daily basis. And like, you know, almost from like week to week, you see advances in it that are significant if you like, you know, are in the weeds with it and everything. And it's so fun and fascinating. I'm in the middle of like picking another fight with like Skeeny and Johan and leaning on it to make some ridiculous stuff. But anyway, man, I'm like, you know, there's only, and so I'm saying that to say, man, it's getting so good that it's almost indistinguishable if you are skilled with it from anything that would be created, you know, by a real artist. And in terms of NFTs and like digital art, man, I feel like if we're not at the point already, we're gonna be at it soon where like the default assumption is gonna be that everything is made with AI in some capacity, you know, one form or another, even if it's not. And it's not like a value judgment. And you and I both know I have like tremendous respect for like people who, you know, actually create art with, you know, art skills versus AI prompting and everything. But I'm like, you know, circling all the way back to say, like, I'm like, there's only so much crypto art out there pre-AI that is like verified on the blockchain, time-stamped, that we know that literally could not have been created with AI because it just wasn't a thing then. And, you know, I wonder as we move forward on like a long enough timeline, I'm like, dude, if this is sort of the beginning of like, you know, everything is AI and there's only so much like, you know, tokenized crypto art out there that is not AI, you know, I wonder if that's a thing, or if like a thing people care about, or if like a thing that there is some response to, like a, you know, some sort of like, I don't know, renaissance or like backlash to, or like something, you know, down the line. But I don't know, man. I just something I've been thinking about and curious to hear your take on it as someone, you know, as deep in the art scene as you are.
Yeah, and I think it transcends art. I think this goes also to news in a world where deep fakes keep coming out, like AI spoofed images from Gaza and Israel war, like that have been throwing folks into fits and just like obfuscating the actual truth and reality around things. The ability to have a way to see like, all right, who's been doing things, who's like unanimously kind of known as being a truthful actor of doing the real things. That could be reporting, creating art in their own way. Not saying that AI art is not art, but just known to make art in a way that had not incorporated AI into the process previously. And your mind initially and immediately goes, if you've been in crypto, to like an ENS handle recognizable from before the AI boom took over. All the track record of folks collecting, creating, it's like, damn, like I know those people. Like they're kind of co-signed by so many other follower collector types, right? And Balaji's alluded to this. Jake Bruckman has talked about how crypto helps and solves the thorny issues and sticky issues that AI presents in a world of like unlimited creation potential for anyone, right? Is the ability to see folks that you trust and kind of use that stamp or signature to feel okay about consuming, collecting something, right? And again, it cuts both ways. So like Claire Silver and Helena Sarin, aka Neurobricolage, two amazing AI artists. Like seeing their names, like boom, like they are some of the most thoughtful artists using AI around, period. They're just artists, pure and simple, and AI is like another paintbrush for them. But like seeing their cryptographic handle and signature on work, it's that stamp of, okay, they used it in a way that you know is co-signed and like legit, blah, 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 blah. And that kind of extends out to then hopefully at some point, like reporters and photographers that are sending their images and sharing their images from real war zones, knowing that like, okay, it's from X, Y, or Z photographer / reporter. Like their work has been always top shelf, always above board. No one has ever levied any sort of accusation of impropriety against them or like spoofing shit. You know what I mean? And just being able to see those names and know that they're trusted, that's the big gap right now. And figuring out how to kind of proliferate that kind of digital identity layer that we use every day, like without thinking, for the most part, for most folks. I think that there's a real huge potential to solve these thorny issues, like I was saying, like you're getting at with your thoughts, but it extends beyond art to news for sure, and everything else that we're doing in our lives, I think, to a certain point.
No, dude, I like that take a lot. Honestly, it ties together like some of the other concepts that you were just mentioning that other people have been talking about as well, in terms of like, yeah, I don't see. So I like that. I'm saying that to say, in terms of like, you know, sort of the blockchain being used, if I'm understanding what you're getting at in terms of like my question, like, you know, the blockchain being used as sort of like a form of like trust or proof that, like, you know, if you see this artist's name pop up, they're known for making like traditional art and not AI specifically, like, you know, you can trust that based on, you know, what you've seen in the past, like, et cetera, et cetera. And I think you're probably,
well, it's just like ENS handles and crypto signatures. It's just a better way to know like where something came from, not necessarily
absolutely
AI or otherwise, right? Like AI is not all bad, right? But seeing like where an image came from, okay, that's someone who uses AI and they're very popular because of it, and they're not known to use AI in a malicious way. So boom, that's good, right? Same thing with like images coming out of a war zone. Like everyone talks about the fog of war these days. And if the photographers, reporters are stamping, they're using their ENS handle to kind of attest to the shit that they're sharing, you're able to see, okay, well, that's the legit handle that everyone knows, that's the blue check mark ENS, whatever, of the trusted actors, versus the bullshit AI spoof, like intentionally maliciously altered up, like fucked with reports and photographs that are coming out that are fake, that like you can't distinguish like the difference between those and like the real thing, because they're not, no one is looking for a signature on those things. People don't expect to look, especially on images on the internet, for signatures like that to see where they came from. People mostly think that you can't tell where images came from, and we know that it's not true in our neck of the woods. And it's like, how do we spread that fact, which will fundamentally alter how people look at and consume digital content?
Yes, dude. I think we're saying the same thing in different spectrums. I'm saying, like, you know, you see a piece of art out in the wild with nothing attached for it, much like a photograph. Like, we're getting to a point where the default assumption is that there's AI involved, and like how to differentiate stuff. And maybe there's not. Maybe it's like, you know, hand drawn or you know, a real photograph or whatever. But like, how to validate that and verify it moving forward. And yeah, man, I don't see how we don't get to a point where like everything has to get like pinned to the blockchain in real time. And you know, I'm an ENS hater, so I don't think it necessarily has to be tied to that. I think it can just be like you know, anything, man, like your wallet. And I think it could be across like, you know, various blockchains, but like, you know, we're going to reach a point where like the deep fakes are so good and like all the like spoof content is so good that if, you know, you're a presidential candidate and you're not like posting or pinning your shit to the blockchain when it's happening in real time or whatever, you know, I think there's going to be a level of skepticism towards almost anything when, you know, once this technology is just like a little bit more widespread and polished and well known in terms of like what its capabilities are. And we're like basically there now. I feel like the general public is just not quite aware of like how powerful it is and how deceiving it can actually be. But I don't know if like maybe there are other ways, you know, that aren't like, you know, blockchain native, but it seems like it just lends itself perfectly. Like, you know, that's really the, you know, across many things, like the real only public way of showing, you know, transparent trust.
Yeah, I mean, the transparent public ledger is useful just for this. I'll definitely say that like the solution needs to be human readable. No one's going to fucking look at like a 0x hexadecimal address and like understand, oh, this one 0x beef is from this person, and this one 0x90627 is from. Yeah,
but your app will like, you know, obfuscate that for you. You know what I mean? You'll have like a dope app that just reads all this shit.
Yeah, I think you need both just to truly be above board, not have to rely on some apps UI to surface that like subtle difference. But no, yeah, we're I think our heads are in the same place. It's just like it's not spread far enough. It's still not refined enough for regular folks to make use of that. There's something called the Ethereum attestation service. It's a protocol. You go to the website, it's like, what the fuck is this? Even someone in crypto is not really going to understand how to use it. Even though the concept's simple, it's like, okay, but even if I don't quote unquote mint an NFT or whatever, I can use crypto to stamp my seal of approval on something and use it potentially to say that, and like bring all your digital work content under one umbrella, giving it your seal of approval, and so that other folks will be able to see that. But it's not ready for prime time. There's no like front end that's built off of it, as far as I know, that makes it seamless and simple for normies to kind of stamp and like use their identity to stamp their digital work and content in a way that allows other people to see it and trust it. Also, just like a tool like that is so powerful, and you know that it's going to be abused by a lot of folks. So like, how do you prevent against those bad actors again using it and trying to say that some work that's not theirs is there? That's a sort of a rabbit hole tangent, but yeah, I think we're on the same page there. We see a future where crypto can help combat the quote unquote AI problem. It's just like, how do we get there? The transition strategy is still an open question.
Well, yeah, man. And it cuts across like so many things too, man. I was just talking to my mom yesterday, and, you know, she had gotten something and wasn't sure if it was a scam or whatever. And coincidentally, I had just gotten something a couple of days ago that I wasn't sure if it was a scam. And it turned out it was like, I was like, well, if this isn't a scam, like it's important. And I, you know, had to do all this like, OPSEC just to figure out this thing was not a scam, and everything was fine. And, my mom was trying to do the same thing, and was just sort of having a general conversation with her about like how it just feels like across everything, man, it's just scams are just rampant, man. Everyone's out to get you like in one form or fashion, and you can't trust a fucking email or a phone call or like a piece of letter in the mail without like, doing some OPSEC. And this is another one where like, the blockchain sort of solves a lot of that if it's coming from like, a trusted, your health insurance has a stamp, your, whatever it is, your electrical company, your, these kinds of things, your mortgage lender, all these things that like, lend themselves to people trying to take advantage of you in like different types of ways are like very easily solvable with this technology. But again, man, I don't know what pushes it into the mainstream or gets like people really adapting to it. And I feel like the answer is always something like sort of dumb. But it just seems like an obvious fix for like so many of these problems that like technology is sort of created, but technology can also sort of solve.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it's up to us to kind of put into play in action. Like with the Ethereum attestation service, like there's an idea I've had with like a digital resume of sorts, like getting artists that I've worked with to kind of co-sign the fact that I have worked with them and help produce the collections that I've worked with them on, right? Again, using digital signatures and just showing that as like a proof point, right? And ideally surfacing an approach that is familiar, easy enough for non-crypto folks to kind of see, oh shit, crypto is that easy. Where like I take a photograph, write a post, put that out there, and then it's all kind of linked back to the single point of truth on this transparent public ledger. Those are the things that need to happen. Before that happens, like there's no way for it to spread. Like if we're not able to sand off and sand down the rough edges of the tech, no one else is going to grab it and make use of it. It's probably like the unfortunate reality. But we're closer to that point. There's not as much to shave down on a lot of these tools and interrelated protocols and services as there were even last year. So it's just putting things together and kind of hoping and putting like the light bulb switch closer to the experiments is probably the metaphor for something like this to hopefully spread these tools far and wide. Because other than that, I'm really not aware of anyone actually working on like the fix to the problem. People are talking about it. It's logical to see the connections and the potential. But I personally haven't heard anyone really working on something to solve this or put these tools into like reporters or like photojournalist hands or anything like that.
Yeah, there's like so much mistrust out there, just like I was saying with the scams and like across the media, the financial industry, and everything, and so there's so many like haters on this technology. But you'd think like there's an opportunity out there for someone to get out in front of a lot of these industries where there is like inherent mistrust in them and use this in some like, stupid, simple way that people can verify, like, something that would, put their mind at ease a little bit. And that's probably, and hopefully, honestly, if corporations are going to start like, utilizing this technology, I think it by default benefits everyone, on the other side of things and everything. And it would be dope if there was some arms race to like, prove trust and transparency in a totally capitalistic way in order to, get users and people on their platform or using their system or whatever. But I'm like, hey, I'm like way more for that than some like stupid gimmick, which has, generally been the thing up until this point, so I don't know, man, maybe that's a pipe dream.
Yeah, hopefully it's not a pipe dream. It would be sad if it's a pipe dream, because if it is a pipe dream, then that means the future is going to be pretty fucked up.
I mean, think about it, man. If you like heard of like some interesting, I don't really have a great example. I keep thinking of banks, but like I don't know exactly how it manifests itself. But I'm like, dude, if one of these like corrupt banks, like you know, was like, all right, we're doing everything by the books, and also offering you a lower like something rate on your like whatever. I'm like, dude, that's a big selling point for me. I don't know if it is publicly.
What do you mean? I don't get the example.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a shitty example, man.
I thought you were gonna go like banks and routing numbers or something like that. Like every branch bank has like such a weird fucking number that's not intuitive and is not always the easiest to find. But like, for example, like Bank of America, they could have BOA.eth and their like Portland branch or Beaverton branch would be like Beaverton.boa.eth. I don't know. It's like a basic ass way to just make shit easier, like where you're sending money shit to. Anyway, that's also not a good example. That's part of the problem though. Like coming up with these examples that like resonate with folks. It's hard. It's very, very hard. It's deceptively hard to come up with that. And like those examples are, even if if someone's not in crypto, coming up with those easy to understand examples, that's it. So hope everyone takes Thanksgiving break to come up with better examples, ourselves included.
Well, dude, I think part of it is the technology is jank, and part of it is consumer education, right? Like in the inner, we have like some great examples. I mean, just think of like DeFi as like a concept in general. It's still like, you know, a foreign language to most people out there, but it is like, you know, a totally different, you know, angle on things and way of doing things, you know, in a way that if you know what you're doing, can make a lot more sense, and, you know, all this stuff. And then there are like much smaller examples that are also significant of what you're talking about, you know, just sort of using the technology as signatures to like validate things and everything. And I'm like, you know, we know these things and we can do these things. But yeah, like but having them and being able to do them and then like serving it up in a way that like people can understand on a mainstream level, but also that fucking work. I mean, that's, you know, another problem we've seen is just like scaling in general, you know, inherently runs into some situations. So I don't know, man, it's always fun. Yeah. Maybe someone else can come up with some way to solve the banking industry over break.
Exactly. I wanted to bring things back to a slightly lighter point. I shouted out Roger Dickerman earlier, but there's another like daily thread or that popped up on my radar that I think people will kind of get a kick out of. It's FKA 787. And they do more of like a 24 hours of tea in the crypto art / NFT / crypto space that they started recently. And it's just great, kind of a nice contextual lens, kind of snarky, kind of sarcastic, not always like super shiny or polished in how they break down like the previous days, like events that I think folks will kind of get a laugh out of and some value from time to time. So definitely give them a follow. And a little bit of a lighter note than like the shitty ass banking system and like terrible misinformation, how AI is like killing the world in certain instances. To finish
that was just fascinating to me.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yes. We should talk about the whip and like and we have like some alpha a little bit.
Do it. Peel it back, rip it open. Shower the folks in alpha world.
Yes. So we're back on the 30th for the whip, taking this week off for the U.S. Thanksgiving and everything. So happy Thanksgiving to anybody who's celebrating. We're going to be back with Whipsgiving on the 30th. Historically, we do some sort of whipified Thanksgiving event that is generally ridiculous, and we're going for that this time around as well. In contact with Jin and Boombox Head, we've been talking about a float parade. So, and I don't want to give out too much, but we're going to give out some stuff though, some things for the parade and everything, and it'll be dope. So the chefs are in the kitchen cooking, and we're going to serve up an awesome Whipsgiving event on the 30th. But The big news is for people who are at our Halloween event, with the giant donation from Anon Snail of like all these incredible NFT prizes and everything. We broke Hyperfi and killed some zombies and everything and made it rain on the audience. And we're going to be able to do that again thanks to an anonymous donation of the same tune on, let's see, what did we say? December 21st. So we are, again, the chefs are in the kitchen cooking. We're not going to reveal too many details out of it, but I believe it's an anonymous tree this time. I have to double check, but we're in the beginning stages of organizing this thing. So that's one to put on the calendar. December 21st, same time, same place. We'll kick it off in the whip parcel. All other details to be determined, other than the fact that we're going to make it rain on the audience for the holidays. So get your buckets out.
Yeah, excited for that. Excited to see what prizes end up getting scooped and donated to the Whip fam for the Christmas version of what we did for Halloween. It's going to be crazy, man. More alpha to come, more details to come. But yeah, dude, enjoy Thanksgiving. Take time with the fam. Definitely come up with better examples. I'm going to be doing the same thing. Excited to see you back here next week, though.
Sounds good, man. I'm busy making stupid avocados to pick a fight with Skeeny and Johan, so I'll leave the banking examples to someone else and get back to my absurdities.
Sounds good, dude.
Yo, have a good break, man. See you on the other side.
Peace.
Bye.